Well, hey everybody. Just wanting to jump on here with my friend Greg to share some vision behind the Hosting God's Presence days that are coming up. Our first one is in Ashford in Kent on the 5th of October. And yeah, we just wanted to share a bit about our heart behind it. Greg's going to be joining me and we're going to be sharing the teaching and seeing what God wants to do. But yeah, the vision behind doing the days is obviously I've written this book, Hosting God's Presence. Really that came out of a passion to see more of God's presence prioritized in our Sunday meetings and our gatherings. And yeah, I've had some really great feedback and lots of encouragement. And Greg and I have also been involved with doing an online course, which has been amazing, just teaching people a little bit more in depth. But I think what I've been thinking is you can teach the theory and you can train people and equip people, but there's just nothing quite like being in a room with people, worshipping, having a plan, but being able to really be free to flex that plan depending on what God is doing in the room. And that's really the heart behind these days. We have got a plan. We are going to plan to teach, but we also want to learn what does it look like when we really allow the presence of God to take center stage. When he comes, when he speaks, how do we move things around to respond to his voice and then see what he does. So yeah, I'm excited to see what God will do. Greg, it'd be great to hear. I know that you've been on a journey in churches and been in a place where there was much more structure, and you kind of transitioned to wanting to prioritize the presence of God. So you've really done this journey. It'd be great to hear some of your heart and your thoughts about these days, and yeah, whatever you want to share.
Cool. Thanks, Wendy. Hey, it's interesting. Kind of like probably I would imagine many of you was in a church, an amazing church where it was quite structured. Really, you had your slot for worship, slot for announcements and notices, and then slot for preaching. And to be honest, anywhere I've been, that kind of tends to be the flow and the rhythm. Obviously, sometimes the times are carved up a little differently, but what you kind of find is church looks the same each week, and there's little to no room to kind of follow the Lord's leading. We're kind of always feel like constrained by time, whether you're in a leadership position, you're setting the tone of the service, whether you're a host or a worship leader, whatever it is, or whether you're just as a congregant, you're just there and want to encounter Jesus. We often find that it's confined and restricted. And basically the church that I was part of, that was kind of the way we did things. And then significant leadership change meant we kind of had a blank canvas and got to sort of think differently, and we're like, what do we prioritize? What are we hungry for? We kind of sit around and say, we're hungry for the presence of God. What does that look like? How do we pursue that? And so what that looked like for us then is, we still had the plan, and the structure didn't really change in terms of the flow. It just was a lot more flexible. Whereas there were Sundays where it's like, 3 songs and it's like, we're not preaching today. We just know we've just got to keep going to worship. And it's just really about intention, I think, and creating space. What I've learned is, when you create space, God fills the space. But to create space requires risk as well, because you're kind of leaning into things and you haven't prepared for, you've got your own personal history, your own personal walk that sets the shape for that. But in those moments, you're kind of just going by you're winging it, for lack of a better word. You're just leaning in and hoping you don't get it wrong. And I think what we've learned is, prioritizing obedience is all that we're asked to do, and Jesus, the outcomes, his responsibility. So I think in saying all that, what I'm excited for in these days is that actually we will have that space. And yeah, Wendy's written an amazing book, a really practical book, which you should really get hold of if you haven't. And yeah, we did some online teaching as well. But I think for me about these days is, you can receive teaching and you can receive information, but reality is, until you've had that moment of revelation in your life, it doesn't change anything. And so our heart for these days is to create a space really to encounter Jesus and to lean in, because when you've got a short window of time, there's an inability to really lean in, because at some point you're going to be pulled out of it. So do you really want to go there and get halfway into something or a bit into something with Jesus personally, or even as a congregation, collectively? Then we have to move on. And we've all had those awkward moments where, like, Jesus's presence is so weighty in the room, and then it's like, oh, we have to do announcements now. And your announcements in no way reflect what's just happened, and it's really clunky and awkward, the transition. So this is just the time to come. So I would just sort of say, if you're hungry for God's presence first and foremost, be just great to have you in the room, and we're going to share just some of our own journey and story in greater detail, and just how we've seen the presence of God come. And I suppose for me, like we shifted the way in which we did church and prioritize things, and we started to see people getting increasing, like the kingdom coming, people getting healed, people getting set free, salvations, people encountering the manifest presence of God, and so many incredible stories. We had people, for the first time walk into the building, they just cried from the moment they walked into, they left, because they're like, what is this presence? As no one told them anything, no one prayed for them. It's just like they just couldn't stop weeping, and they've no point of context or reference for this, and those sorts of things.
So good.
And that changes everything, really, when you encounter him. So we just want to create space for that. So that's kind of some of what I could share about that,
So good, Greg. And
wonderful.
I feel like we're going to be learning together, because one thing we know, that there's no experts when it comes to hosting God's presence, and we're going to just be learning together. So I just want to encourage you, like Greg said, if you're hungry for God's presence, it'd be great to have you in the room. If you're a leader and you're wanting to learn a bit more about how to prioritize the presence of God, please do come along. We're in Ashford in Kent on the 5th of October, and then we are going to Birmingham on the 16th of November, and then we'll be in Norwich on the 25th of January, and we'll wait and see if the other locations open up. But if you're interested in coming, please look at the link wherever you're watching this video. There'll be information about where you can get tickets, and please spread the word. We're just really longing to see God come and do what only he can do. We're going to go after healing. We want to be obedient to his voice. And I mean, I think I've historically talked about, experiencing the glory of God, and those moments when you're like, oh wow, God is really close. But I also think I've really not tasted much of what is possible when he really comes, and I'm just hungry for more of him. So Greg, thank you for sharing. Really looking forward to it, and
can't wait.
really look forward to seeing you guys there. Take care. Bye.